What's going on, guys? Aero here, and welcome back to my Let's Talk F1 series. This is the year-long series where we're doing aerodynamic analysis for the Formula 1 cars around FP1 and FP2 usually for every single race of the season. And today we're going to be talking about the Monaco Grand Prix and looking ahead to the race on Sunday. And more crucially, I think Saturday, obviously, being Monaco, qualifying is the more important one really this weekend. So we're looking at some of the aerodynamic updates that the cars have had through FP1, FP2. Running was kind of dampened a little bit, literally, by some rain. But the cars, there were a few interesting updates from certain teams, but not a lot of actual, big upgrades, unfortunately. I mean, the cars are usually made for Monaco specifically in terms of the ride height, the way the steering angle works on the tyres and the steering wheel. But in terms of actual upgrades just for Monaco specific aerodynamic parts, there weren't too many going on for many teams, just showing how, restrictive the rules are and maybe how strapped for cash some of the teams are. But there were a few interesting updates and just some more kind of updates that we saw from Barcelona continuing on to Monaco. So the first thing we're going to be talking about are the world champions, Mercedes. Now, they had a pretty solid practice day, solid day of practice. FP2, they came 1-2, so again, flexing their muscles towards the end. In first practice, Hamilton was on top, but Rosberg was nowhere to be seen. Max Verstappen got second, in fact, which was, it's kind of something that we should mention. That's quite impressive for Max Verstappen. The first practice session he's ever done on the circuit in any sort of car, and he gets second place, so that's pretty impressive just off the bat. I mean, obviously, maybe a little bit lucky with us having a few issues, but still very impressive. But yeah, the Mercedes looking very, very strong, and the only kind of major updates, at least that I've seen around and read about, is the monkey seat. They've brought a much bigger monkey seat, a much more elaborate monkey seat. You can see here, I believe the white detailing on the monkey seat is the essentially new part maybe, and I think also the upper flaps are a little bit new. I think there was just a single flap before, and now it's two, but definitely a much larger monkey seat. So basically with the bigger monkey seat, they're just trying to create more downforce on the rear, because this will initiate more plume of air to go upwards, because you've got a lot larger area channeling that air going upwards, so that's more air going upwards, and that creates a net downforce on the rear of the car. Moving on to Ferrari now, not exactly an aerodynamic update, but an update nonetheless. So they upgraded their brake ducts now. They've got these larger holes, these sort of oval-shaped holes in the brake duct calipers to kind of aid cooling. If you compare it now to the old one, where there was just kind of like, I can't even call it a slot, just a tiny little slot, I guess you could say, in Barcelona, compared to the one they've got here at Monaco. So definitely going for more cooling here at Monaco. Obviously, here at Monaco, on the slowest track in Formula 1, and you're on the brakes for the majority of the time, so you do need good brake cooling, and you don't want those brakes to fail on you, especially the front ones here now in this era of Formula 1, where the rear brakes don't do as much for you now, because it's all done by the brake-by-wire system and the kinetic energy coming out the brakes, electronic energy coming out the brakes to stop the car at the rear. So the front brakes do a lot of the work, so they need to make sure that it's going to not overheat, and especially we've seen in the past, brake dust come off brakes all the time when drivers are braking, so that can be an issue as well. So that's the kind of brake duct update for Ferrari. And in terms of aerodynamic, not too many for Ferrari. They've just got all the same updates they had from Barcelona, really. So especially one that sticks out, I've said it again, I'll say it again from the Barcelona one, this very interesting side pod that is stepped down, and then the way the turning vane comes from the floor upwards to meet it in sort of like an upside down L shape is it's just very interesting indeed to see this sort of concept going, and very different from Ferrari's Aero concept beforehand. You can see it a lot better on this front view picture, that really does striking kind of upside down L from the floor to meet the Claro logo. It really is quite a sharp kind of turn, and really just a good amount of area underneath that turning vane to allow air through and to really hit that step and kind of go to the rear. I personally really find it very interesting as a kind of Aero concept. Now, these pictures for Mclaren are from the Barcelona testing. They were doing a lot of aerodynamic testing at Barcelona with this Floviz paint. As you can see, they absolutely doused it in Floviz paint. And you can see where the air is moving, really. On the end plate of the front wing, it moves to the sidewall of the tyre. On the inside of the wing, it goes straight through to the suspension. The front suspension goes through on the side of the car, then gets carried along to the turning vanes and barge boards. And the barge boards push it around the side pod, and eventually the side pod carries it through. Obviously, the air moves so fast that that essentially it moves like a fluid. It goes around the curved surface, so that's how it's able to kind of move along like that, like someone just kind of stroked a paintbrush across the car. That's all just air moving that paint. They would have just squirted little blobs of paint, little streaks of paint everywhere, and then the air's just simply taken all of that paint across. So you can see the dramatic effect and force of this air going around Formula 1 cars. Really nice to see. So obviously they're doing some just more aerodynamic kind of calibration, seeing if everything's working the way they want it to. Nice shot here of the McLaren, I believe, like from a bird's eye view perspective, you can see the intermediate tyres on for Alonso. So yeah, the practice sessions were dampened with some rain, so that will make things interesting, seeing if maybe the pace will change a little bit. Maybe people haven't been showing their true pace. And then finally, a nice little shot of Fernando Alonso. Just the lighting really shows the S duct off really well here. That huge square rectangle piece of black on the front just underneath Alonso's helmet, that is the kind of shadow work from the S duct coming through. The little slot gap in the chassis really effectively shows it there. So McLaren, yeah, they had a bit of a torrid time in first practice. Button really couldn't get out, and it seems they're constantly just trying to develop, and hopefully Honda will eventually get there. But again, maybe a tough Grand Prix from McLaren ahead. They're hoping to get points, but we'll see. And finally, this is something I didn't actually say in for Sauber in Barcelona. They've carried through the upgrade. So if you can just see I've circled in red there, you can see the Sauber on the turning vane vortex generator coming up from the side pod. They've got a one long streak vane joining the main body of the car. So that's new. So essentially, there's just extra R&D for Sauber. You can see just, compare it back to the pictures I just showed you, the Ferrari, how very complex the Ferrari is compared to this Sauber in terms of the amount of vortex generators, how they work and where they're placed in such and such. But yeah, you can see what they're trying to do. Essentially, the air is coming through on that inside bit. Obviously, beforehand there was nothing there, so the air would just pass through, and they were hoping that it would carry on down the end of the side pod on the top surface. But now they're trying to actually create a bit of a vortex there. They're trying to split the air as well, and that means that they can try and get the air a little more channeled, a bit more faster through that little area underneath that vane down the side pod. So a little update from Sauber. That wasn't actually technically at Monaco. That was in the Barcelona testing. And also the Barcelona Grand Prix, but I didn't catch up on it. But apart from that, really not too many other upgrades that I've at least seen. I mean, I haven't had too much time to spot them this weekend because I was quite busy on Thursday with some revision for an exam. But it's to be expected this time again. This was the same case last year where, we just haven't seen as many upgrades every single weekend as we used to. And I believe if I did this series back when F1 2010 was about 2011, you would have had upgrades every single race for most of the big teams at least, and also the smaller teams. But I guess the case is smaller teams are just so cash strapped now that, smaller teams would usually maybe kind of risk a bit more and bring a whole raft of upgrades for all the races, but they just can't research and develop anymore because they don't have the cash for it. And then the top teams, well, the rules are so restricted that the top teams are getting so close to each other, in terms of development, that when they do make it a development part, it's like a very refined part. Ferrari said it themselves, they're not bringing quantity, they're bringing quality. So we'll see just a few upgrades throughout the year for Ferrari, but there'll be quality ones that they've tested out in the CFD, in the wind tunnels, that they make sure it works. But it used to be the case when the rules were a bit more open, and I guess obviously the understanding of aerodynamics was a bit less. We had less complex cars before, so obviously they get to this complex stage, that gap, there's so much rapid development, and now we've got to a stage where the rules are sort of holding back the development, maybe because there's less and less areas to be creative, and the bigger teams don't want to waste money on just random upgrades that might not even work or might fail. But yeah, that's been Let's Talk F1 Monaco. If you did enjoy that and found it informative, then do give it a like and share it with any Formula 1 friends you have online and whatnot through social media platforms. Yeah, if you're new around here as well, subscribe for more weekly F1 content. Also, I said this is a year-long series, so do subscribe for that if you want to be in the know. I know this isn't the most technical of videos, but, I'm just doing it from my perspective. I'm just a very passionate person that likes to read about this stuff, and I thought some of you guys might be interested, and that's what the series is all about, really. To just aid my learning and aid your learning. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy that anyway. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Hope you enjoy Sunday for the race. It should be, well, I would say cracker, but Monaco's never been absolutely amazing. But, it's the Monaco Grand Prix still. It still has a little bit of buzz. I guess you guys can enjoy Saturday. Saturday's the real buzz. So I hope you guys enjoyed the whole weekend in general. I've been aarava. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see you guys next time.